It was supposed to be a day of joy, a perfect Easter morning in a quiet little town where nothing ever went wrong. The sun rose gently. The air smelled of fresh tulips and warm cinnamon. Children laughed, families gathered, but beneath the pastels and painted eggs, something stirred. No one saw it coming. No one heard the warning, but one soul did. While others chased candy and colours, she watched the wind. Her name was Clover, and before the hour was over, she would become the town's only hope. The town of Willow Creek was picture perfect that Sunday morning. Flower beds burst with colours, balloons swayed gently from lampposts. The church bells chimed, welcoming families to the town square where the annual Easter egg hunt was moments from beginning. Children fidgeted with excitement, baskets clutched tightly in their hands. Parents laughed, cameras in hand. It was a tradition, a celebration, and this year felt more magical than ever. Clover, the golden retriever with soulful eyes and fur that shimmered like morning light, lay calmly beside little Emma Wilson. The two had been joined at the heart since the day Emma learned to walk. Today, Emma wore a pink dress with bunny ears on her head. Her basket already had 2 glitter eggs carefully selected. "Ready, Clover?" she giggled, hugging the dog around her neck. Clover wagged her tail once, softly. But her eyes flicked to the tree line beyond the park. The countdown began. 3! Children crouched like sprinters on the starting line. 2! Parents called out encouragement. 1! And the field erupted into motion. Emma darted forward giggling, while Clover trotted faithfully behind her. Laughter echoed across the park. But while the town celebrated, high above them, the clouds began to stir. A cold wind whispered through the trees. The sunlight dulled, and in the distance, a single Easter egg rolled, sparkling round almost mischievously, as if it had a will of its own. Emma saw it bounce toward the forest trail. "Clover, look, it's a golden one," she squealed. Before anyone could stop her, Emma took off running, chasing the egg past the hedges, beyond the wooden benches, and straight toward the trees. Clover's ears twitched. She barked once, low, sharp warning, but the egg was too shiny, the chase too exciting. Emma disappeared behind the tree line, her laughter fading into the whisper of leaves. Clover stood frozen for a second. Then she bolted. She knew. She knew something was wrong. And this Easter morning was about to become a memory the town would never forget. The town square buzzed with anticipation as the mayor, a rotund man in a bright yellow bow tie, adjusted his megaphone and climbed onto the stage beneath a giant banner that read, "Willow Creek Annual Easter Egg Hunt." The crowd erupted in applause. Dozens of children, baskets clutched tightly, bounced in place like popcorn kernels waiting to explode. Bunny ears flopped, colourful face paint smudged, and pastel ribbons fluttered in the wind. It was the kind of chaos only springtime and sugar could produce. Sarah Wilson knelt beside her daughter Emma, fixing the pink ribbon in her hair. "There," she said, smiling. "Now you're ready to win it all." Emma beamed. "Clover's going to help me, right?" Ben chuckled from behind. "If you mean Clover's going to sniff out every egg in the park, then yes, she's your secret weapon." Clover stood calmly beside them, golden fur shimmering in the light. She didn't bark, didn't wag, she just watched. Her eyes swept the perimeter of the park, the trees beyond the benches, the distant swings, the hill that led to the woods. She caught a scent in the wind. Her ears twitched. 3 minutes until the hunt begins. The mayor boomed. Emma leaned close to Clover's ear. "We've got this, girl." The dog blinked slowly, then gently bumped her head against Emma's cheek. A rare show of affection. Clover wasn't your average tail-chasing retriever. She was more like an old soul in a young body, always aware, always calm. As the countdown neared, parents took their places, phones raised, filming the chaos about to unfold. Volunteers in bunny costumes handed out chocolate eggs, and laughter echoed through the open air. But no one noticed the sky. No one noticed the subtle shift in the wind, the faint rustling of the woods behind the town. The birds, gone quiet. The shadows growing longer, even though it was barely midday, except Clover. She turned her head sharply toward the trees. The mayor raised the megaphone again. "All right, little bunnies of Willow Creek, on my count." Children crouched like racers on the starting blocks. 3. Emma tightened her grip on her basket. Clover lowered her head, muscles tensing. 2. A golden egg perched precariously on a stone near the trail's edge wobbled. A sudden gust rolled it forward, bouncing, rolling, away. Emma's eyes widened. 1! The park exploded in motion. Screams of joy, feet pounding grass, parents cheering. But Emma was already running. Not toward the eggs by the flower beds, not toward the candy-filled ones under the picnic tables. She was chasing that right egg, the golden one. "Clover, come on!" she shouted. Clover barked once, sharp, not playful. But Emma didn't stop. The egg bounced off the stone path, skipped over a tree root, and vanished past the hedge that marked the edge of the forest. Emma giggled, her legs pumping. Just a little further. She pushed through the brush and disappeared behind the tree line. Back at the park, Clover froze. She stared at the path Emma had taken, her fur lifted. The smell of wet leaves and something off drifted in. She let out another bark, louder this time, urgent. Ben turned. "Did she just go, Emma?" Sarah stood, heart thudding. "Emma?" Clover growled. She pawed the ground, then she bolted. "Clover!" Sarah shouted. "Wait, where's Emma?" But Clover was already gone, her paws hammering the earth, her breath quickening as she charged toward the woods. The edge of the forest had always marked the end of town and the beginning of the wild. To most, it was just a patch of woods, a place for summer hikes and autumn leaf piles. But today, it felt different. As Emma pushed through the hedges, twigs snapped underfoot. The golden egg bounced further along the narrow trail, like it had a mind of its own, glowing slightly in the shadows. She didn't notice how the sounds of the town faded behind her, the laughter, the music. All of it drowned beneath the rustling of branches and the quiet whistle of wind through bark. "Almost got you," Emma whispered, giggling. The egg rolled again, down a slope this time. Emma followed, ducking under branches, her bunny ears snagging once, then bouncing back into place. Her shoes squished in soft earth. She stepped over roots, hopping like the bunny she imagined herself to be. Behind her, Clover's paws struck the ground fast and sure. She darted under the banner, past the shocked faces of parents, and into the woods with a growl under her breath. She moved like a bullet, focused, locked in, reading the ground with every step. Her ears twitched, her nose flared. She had Emma's scent. Further in, Emma stopped to catch her breath. The golden egg had come to rest near a large log, half covered in moss. Around her the trees grew tighter, thicker. Their bare lower trunks formed natural fences, but their upper branches tangled into a dark ceiling that blocked out the sky. The wind changed again. Cold, sudden, a branch snapped behind her. Emma froze. "Hello?" No answer, just the eerie sound of silence. Even the birds weren't chirping anymore. She took a step back, then another. Crunch. She gasped and looked down. Her foot had landed on something soft and rotting, a thick bed of wet leaves covering a dip in the forest floor. She lost her balance and tumbled down a shallow incline, landing hard on her side with a cry. "Mommy!" No one answered. She tried to stand, but her knee ached. a sharp pain, enough to bring tears to her eyes. Her small fingers clutched her dress, trembling. Then a sound, a bark, faint but growing closer. She sniffled. Clover? Another bark, this one sharper, closer. Then, there she was. Clover broke through the brush, panting, covered in leaves, and absolutely locked onto Emma. The golden retriever bounded down the incline and gently pushed her nose against Emma's shoulder. Clover, she sobbed, wrapping her arms around the dog's neck. Clover licked her cheek once, then turned her head, alert again. There wasn't time to celebrate, not yet. Clover stood in front of Emma facing the woods. Her body stiffened, the fur on her back raised slightly. She growled, low and threatening. Something was coming. Back at the park, chaos had erupted. Parents were running. Volunteers were trying to maintain calm. Sarah Wilson was inconsolable. Ben was screaming into the trees. She's out there. We need a search team. The mayor was on his phone. We're calling rescue services, drones, dogs, everything. But nothing moved faster than Clover. The wind came first. It tore through the upper branches of the forest with a banshee wail, scattering blossoms, shaking nests loose, and turning once soft sunlight into a shifting grey haze. Clover planted herself in front of Emma like a living shield. Her muscles coiled, her ears twitched left then right. Every instinct told her something was wrong, something close. She didn't bark now. She listened. Emma whimpered behind her. My knee hurts. Clover glanced back once, then nudged her basket toward the base of a nearby tree where it would be out of the way. She licked Emma's cheek gently, then turned again to face the forest. Another sound, a rustle, a crack of a branch, too heavy for a bird, too slow for a rabbit. Then a flash of movement between the trunks. Clover growled. Across town, the sky had darkened. Parents were forming a volunteer search line, flashlights in hand, jackets pulled up over their heads as the first drops of rain began to fall. She's never wandered off before, Sarah cried. She wouldn't go far? Ben gripped her shoulder. Clover's with her. Clover always finds her way back. But what if... She'll find her. Back in the forest, thunder rolled. Clover barked once, deep and loud. It echoed through the trees like a war drum. A moment later, the movement vanished. Emma clung to her dog's fur. I'm scared, Clover. The dog turned back and licked Emma's hand. Then she did something she almost never did. She lay down beside Emma and whined, urging her to climb on. Emma blinked. Really? Clover bumped her nose against Emma's arm, then turned her head toward the way she came. With effort and pain, Emma climbed onto Clover's back, holding tightly to her collar. The rain came harder now. What had been a mist was now a steady downpour, and the forest transformed. Leaves glistened, mud spread, shadows grew longer. The paths between the trees seemed to twist into unfamiliar shapes. Clover took a deep breath, and then she moved, slowly at first, careful of the weight on her back. She navigated rocks, puddles, hidden roots. Her paws slipped once, but she found her footing. Step by step, she carried Emma through the storm. They passed the fallen log, past the moss-covered tree, back toward the slope that Emma had rolled down. Clover hesitated, then found a longer, safer path around it. She stopped often to sniff the air, recalibrating, checking for threats. She was drenched, fur heavy and matted, her tail dragged, her paws trembled with strain, but she didn't stop, because Emma was breathing against her neck, because the scent of home was faint. But there, suddenly, a deafening crack of thunder. A nearby tree groaned, then split. Clover leapt forward as the trunk came crashing down behind them. Bark and leaves exploded into the air. A branch scraped Clover's side, tearing fur, drawing blood. Emma screamed. Clover yelped, but she didn't fall. She kept moving. Clover's breaths were shallow now, every exhale a puff of steam in the cold. Her muscles burned beneath her soaked fur, legs trembling as she climbed the narrow path through the thickening woods. Emma clung tightly, shivering, her small arms looped around Clover's neck, but just as the trees began to thin and the sky opened above them, Clover stopped. A scent. Wet earth, wind, open air, danger. She took another cautious step forward and pushed through the final cluster of undergrowth and froze. The trail ended. Just inches ahead, the land fell away sharply into a sheer drop, an overgrown ravine carved out by decades of storms. The earth at the edge was cracked, rain-slicked and unstable. At the bottom, jagged rocks and swirling water churning like a beast. Clover growled and backed away from the edge, but the ground beneath her hind paws crumbled. Emma slipped. She slid backward off Clover's back, tumbling toward the cliff's edge, screaming. Clover reacted before she could think. She lunged, teeth flashing, and Charles caught Emma's jacket in her mouth. The girl's feet dangling inches above the drop. Her paws scrambled against the mud as she strained backward, every muscle screaming in protest. The girl whimpered, tears falling. Rain pelted their faces. Time seemed to freeze in the roar of wind and thunder. Clover didn't let go. She wouldn't. She dragged Emma inch by inch across the ground, away from the edge. Her claws dug trenches in the soil, her neck stretched, her teeth clamped tighter. Finally, Emma was clear. Clover collapsed beside her, panting. Emma sobbed, clinging to her fur. Clover. Clover. The dog lifted her head and gave one small lick across Emma's nose. Then she stood again. They weren't safe yet. They had to keep moving. Back in Willow Creek, the park that just hours ago rang with laughter now stood eerily still. The egg hunt was abandoned, the tables of treats left untouched. A balloon floated away, unnoticed, rising into the grey sky like a forgotten prayer. Volunteers moved in lines through the woods, flashlights slicing through the rain. Deputies from the local sheriff's office had joined in, along with 2 drone operators scanning the forest canopy. The mayor stood by the gazebo, soaked through, his bow tie sagging. "I don't care what it costs," he barked into his phone. "Call in more dogs, more rescue teams. This is a child." Sarah Wilson sat under a tarp, held by 2 firemen, clutching Emma's stuffed bunny, her eyes wide, unfocused. "She never goes far," she whispered. "She always holds Clover's leash. She never lets go." Ben was pacing near the tree line, boots caked in mud, yelling her name over and over again. "Emma! Emma!" But the forest gave no reply. Then a murmur spread through the group near the trail entrance. A sound, bark. "Someone froze. Did you hear that?" Another bark. "Closer this time." The search leader raised a hand. "Quiet, everyone quiet." They waited, silence. Then out of the mist, a shape emerged, low to the ground, golden, limbs dragging. Clover. She stumbled into view, coated in mud, bleeding from a gash near her ribs, one ear torn slightly but still upright, still moving, and on her back. "Emma!" Sarah screamed and sprinted forward, her feet slipping in the wet grass. She collapsed to her knees as Clover reached her, and Emma slid off, wrapped in her mother's arms, sobbing into her chest. Ben dropped beside them, clutching them both, his own sobs breaking loose at last. Clover collapsed in the mud beside them, utterly spent. But her eyes never left Emma, not for a second. Crowds gathered, some filmed, others wept. One firefighter bent down and gently wrapped a thermal blanket around Clover's body. The mayor stood back, eyes full of tears. That dog deserves a medal. Far above, the drone's camera caught the final image of the scene. Families huddled together in the mud, the golden retriever at the center of it all, rain still falling. But the nightmare, over. By late afternoon, the rain had stopped. Clouds parted like curtains drawn back on a stage, revealing golden sunlight spilling down over Willow Creek. It shimmered on puddles, danced across rooftops, and glowed softly against wet blades of grass. A rainbow stretched faintly across the sky, just enough for the children to gasp. But no one returned to the egg hunt. They had something far more important to celebrate. Inside the Wilsons' home, Emma was safe and sound, wrapped in warm blankets, sipping hot cocoa, and cradling Clover's head in her lap. A vet had arrived and patched up Clover's side. "She's bruised, torn, dehydrated, and exhausted," he said gently. "But nothing's broken. She'll recover." Sarah sat nearby, watching silently, tears drying on her cheeks. Ben brought over a tray of warm towels. The entire family moved with the reverence of people who had just walked away from a miracle. Emma whispered to her dog, "You didn't let me go, even when I was falling." Clover blinked slowly. Her tail thumped once. By evening, the mayor arrived with the news crews. A small crowd had gathered outside the Wilsons' home. Neighbours, children, reporters. They carried flowers, homemade signs, and Easter baskets now filled with thank you notes instead of candy. The mayor approached with a solemn smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, every year we celebrate Easter as a day of joy, of life, of hope. But this year we also celebrate it as a day of courage." He knelt down and clipped a medal around Clover's neck, a golden tag engraved with the words, "Willow Creek's Easter Hero." The crowd erupted into cheers. Children chanted her name. Some cried, others clapped. Parents hugged their kids tighter. The sound of gratitude filled the air. And in that moment, no one cared who had found the most eggs. No one remembered the contest, or the prizes, or the candy. They remembered a dog and a child, and a love so strong it would brave the storm, climb the cliffs, and drag hope back from the edge. That night the Wilsons sat outside under the stars. A bonfire crackled in the backyard, and neighbours came by one to offer thanks. Emma fed Clover bits of turkey from her plate. Ben raised a glass. To Clover. Everyone joined in, and from her spot on a blanket by the fire, Clover looked around at the circle of smiling faces, closed her eyes, and drifted into the deepest, safest sleep of her life.